The backbone of marketing is insights.
I was amazed to see even a recipe of different kinds of chai gets lots and lots of views. You can intuitively say it's just chai, but there is a consumer who is wanting to watch that video and understand and make a better tea.
We think that attention span is a problem with people today, and therefore you need 5-second ads, you need thumb stopping, 0-second creators, and all of that. Somebody told me attention span is not a problem because it's the same consumer who's watching 10-20 episodes, watching overnight and finishing it off. Attention is not a problem. It's our ability to engage with consumers is a problem.
AI can give good tenets of market research output, but my question to you is, can it give an insight? Today, we are in conversation with Mr. Manish Makhijani. He has 25 plus years of experience in consumer and marketing insights. 20 years he has spent with one organization, Unilever, and he has recently turned an author with his book Insightful Inc. जब आपको अपना पर्पस मिल जाता है ना और पैशन मिल जाता है तो 25 साल नहीं लगते. He has really gone deep in his work and is an inspiration. तो अगर आप भी इनसे और इनकी बातों से मोटिवेट होना चाहते हैं, watch this episode till the end and turn the page. Welcome Manish. It's an absolute honor to be sitting next to you and interviewing you. I mean, the wealth of experience that you carry is just enlightening the room.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here as well, Gunni.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Manish, your career has been centered around insights, market research, understanding consumers, right? मेरा बहुत simple question है. ये insights है क्या?
You want an insight about the insight?
Yes.
Well, there are various different definitions of insights, but what we use in marketing and the business is quite simple. It's that understanding which explains people's behavior. Why do people behave the way they behave? But it's a little bit more nuanced than that, because we don't want to get an understanding, sort of heals people's emotional problems. We are not psychiatrists in that sense. But we want an understanding to solve the business problem. So insight is something that explains why people behave the way they do. It gives a penetrating understanding, as we say.
Yeah.
But which can be used to sort of create ideas for the business, either new communication, new product ideas, or activation, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So that's really the definition of an insight.
So you mentioned कि हम psychiatrists नहीं हैं, but your profession is at a very beautiful junction of psychology and philosophy.
Yeah.
Right? And to understand humans, I think after a point in time, does it come naturally to you?
So, because it's at a good intersection of psychology, philosophy, and actually marketing and statistics, is the reason why I got attracted to market research and insights in the first place. Because I love psychology. My dad was a psychology professor and a philosophy. He had double M in philosophy and psychology.
Wow.
So I grew up reading a lot of psychology books and philosophy books at home, even though I didn't really understand them at that point in time, but they probably created some sort of a intuitive understanding in my head. So thinking about people, why they behave the way they do, thinking about what excites them, and I've always found myself thinking about, why does this person behave this way? How are they calm in this situation? Or, why are they so nervous in this situation, and so on. That's the thing that attracted me, to this field in the first place. But like a lot of people, I did engineering, which has got nothing to do with human psychology. But advertising attracted me a lot. And I felt that advertising is one area where using, the consumer insights, the human insights, but for the marketing purpose in that sense. It's again, a very, very good use case, one of the best use cases for insights. And that's what attracted me to that field in the first place. So having an understanding of psychology obviously helps. I don't have a formal training in psychology, but I've read a lot. And of course, during my research career, I did various training programs, etc., around psychology. So that helps, of course. But beyond the point, you start developing an intuitive understanding of people.
Absolutely.
You start observing people, little things, little bedside manners, so to speak. And that helps you understand people and convert them into insights. So, like one of my friends used to say that if you want to be in research and if you want to be in good insight, you need to have what she called vulgar curiosity about people, which means you're always eavesdropping. So even if I'm in a train, for example, or in a flight or an airport, people sitting next to me talking to each other. I can't help myself but listen to them.
Okay.
When somebody's looking at the phone, I'm dying to see what are they looking at the phone, etc. So you need to have that curiosity. And in Unilever, we do lots and lots of consumer connects. We did a lot of them. So and because of that training, even now when I go to somebody's house, whether a friend or a family or a relative, within 20 minutes, I've usually gone to the restroom and seen what sort of bathroom, what sort of brands they have in the bathroom,
Okay.
what sort of brands they have in the kitchen, because it's just curiosity that builds up.
Yeah.
Because the kind of brands people use, the variety of brands that they have, etc., tells you a lot about the person as well. So you start building intuitively, that skill of observing little things about people and start to correct the draw. And that's not judgment. You're not judging people.
Yeah.
You're not judging, saying that, oh, why does she have L'Oreal? Or why does she have Dove? Why does she not have XYZ? You're not judging people at all. You sort of early on get trained to leave the judgment behind and just look at it as a neutral observer, saying, oh, they have L'Oreal shampoo, oh, they have Dove body wash, or whatever it may be. But you just get trained to that and you don't judge. You just observe little things. So,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. I was about to ask you that I hope none of your friends and relatives said, no, Manish, please don't come to our house and do consumer work. It's a party. I hope that's not happened to
Yeah,
you.
a lot of them don't know I do that. So,
Oh, okay. That's interesting. So I think we must double click on this interesting topic of insights. And I'm going to ask you a few insights which, has really made you think, added incrementality to business, or not done so well. So the first one being that we observe people, but you observe them very closely. Yeah, as you mentioned, you develop that intuition as well with people. Has there been any insight which has really shook you or made you emotional for that matter?
oh, so many of them. So many of them. So, for instance, we did a couple of examples I will give you. We did extensive work on understanding women and the role of love and romance in their lives.
Yeah.
This was when I was working on Ponds, about 15 years back. Now, we did work across the world and we looked at women from the age group of 15 to 55 across cultures to see what's the importance of love and romance. First of all, what's the difference between love and romance? And what are the role that love and romance, and particularly romance, plays in their lives from the time a girl is 15 years old to 55 years old? And it's fascinating to see that. It's fascinating to see, how the notions of romance change, as the age grows. What happens when she finds a partner? What happens when she settles down? What happens when she's, 10, 15 years down the line into the marriage, when there are kids, and how the notion of romance changes. It's beautiful to see that. But a couple of things that stand out. One is that cultures across the world are very different. So, you're talking to people in Germany, for example, or Northern European, very egalitarian culture. Or you're talking to people in Latin America, let's say Argentina or Brazil, very, very different cultures. Or you're talking to people in China, for instance, or Japan, a lot more conservative, etc. So cultures are very different, but they're all very similar human beings. What drives them, their aspirations, their anxieties are not too different from each other.
Wow.
They manifest themselves differently. But the basic desires and aspirations and anxieties are not very different. So, for example, it's heartbreaking to see some of those insights. So, for example, when a woman has been married for 10, 15 years, she starts yearning for the romance, not because there is no love in the marriage. She and the husband or the partner, etc., might still be in love with each other. But romance is about little things you do to express it, little things you do to keep the magic alive. And that disappears once you've been settled in marriage for a few years, and the woman misses it. Now, and you see that, and you say, okay, but the man doesn't miss it, or man doesn't see the fact that she's missing it. But the moment he realizes and does little things, it changes the entire equation all over again. So those are very, very nice, beautiful, sometimes heartbreaking insights that you get, and you use them in communication sometimes, and we use them for anti-aging, for example, the range, quite effectively, and so on. The other one that comes to mind is that I worked on foods, the global head of insights for one of the foods category in Unilever, and we did huge amount of work in food. Now, food, you can imagine the diversity.
Absolutely.
Just in a country like India, we say that cuisine changes every 100 kilometers. Yeah. And if you are doing work on food across the world, it's mind-boggling. Just the sheer variety is mind-boggling. But again, there are, it's interesting to see that how culture plays a role on the food and the way people cook. So to give an example, if you look at European country, Northern European countries, which are very egalitarian, a lot more individualistic compared to Asian culture, which is affiliated. You'll see their food reflects that as well. So you, for example, are having steak. A good food in their definition is a good cooked steak, and you will have the carbs separately, and you'll have the vegetables separately. Every ingredient you can taste individually because it's the individuality that matters, and you can taste them separately, and you're eating them because as together it's a complete meal. You can't leave the carbs behind, you can't leave the nutrition of vegetables behind, and so on. You look at Asian cultures across Asia, certainly including India, Indonesia, China, Japan. When you're eating a butter chicken, for instance, you're not tasting chicken separately and butter separately.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's as in total
Cohesion.
dish,
Yeah.
which tastes very different from another chicken dish, which tastes very different from Chinese chicken dishes, for example. So dishes have an identity. Individual
Wow.
ingredients in dishes don't have an identity. But as a total dish, it has an identity, which is what affiliative cultures are about. So you and me in India have an identity, yes, but we belong to a certain culture. We belong to certain families. Our surnames say a lot about us as to where are we from, which community we belong to, etc. Whereas those are not the things that matter. So even the food cooked reflects who people are and what culture do. Those are very deep and very, very interesting insights, and a lot
And
has
even
been done and can be done.
Even in the food, the way we eat food.
Yeah.
So I remember my first Europe trip. I was with friends, and the instant action is, okay, what are we going to order? Okay, you're ordering a pizza, I'm ordering a pasta. Okay, we'll share.
Right.
That's an instant thing that we do in a restaurant.
Yeah.
But they take offense if you share food there, right?
Yeah.
What is your order? What is your drink? What is your order? What is your drink? And it's very individualistic.
Very individualistic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we don't mind eating with hands.
Yeah.
So when Europeans see Indians eating hands for the first time, they don't like that feeling, and they think it's unhygienic. They think it's not the right way to eat.
Yeah.
But for us, our fingers and our hands are an integral part of us. Absolutely. It's my body.
Yeah.
And eating hands therefore gives you a very different kind of a sensory experience of the food,
right?
Which is not something they want to experience, because like food is, my mouth has to taste. What do my hands have got to do with it?
Yeah.
Food has a relationship with my mouth, not with my hands. Again, very individual, very different. Looking at a tendency to look at things in isolation rather than in a collective way. So everywhere you look at it, you get very interesting insights, which are culture dependent. There are a lot of, like I said, things are common across the world. Fundamental things are the same. So way people eat is different, and how they look at food is different. But what they expect from the food, the satisfaction that it gives you, we did a lot of work on what's authentic. When you say that this dish is authentic, what do you really mean by that? What does authenticity in food really mean? So definition of authenticity is exactly the same, whether you're saying that this is authentic pizza or authentic steak or authentic,
butter chicken.
Biryani, butter chicken, yeah.
Yes.
So what goes behind in your mind when you say is exactly the same with respect to what the dish is.
Absolutely. And no wonder there's always a debate whether chole bhature came from Delhi or Punjab.
Yeah.
So we definitely, fight for it in India as well, the authenticity of the dish. So very interesting insights, I must say, Manish. But, there might be an over-analysis or an over-judgment of an insight, which may lead to, let's say, not adding incrementality to business, or not doing the job or give the growth which that insight to action was supposed to give. Has that happened with you?
So that's one. And when you execute it, sometimes you're in denial, saying this cannot be true at all. And therefore you still go ahead and do it. So for instance, we realized that when in India we cook dal, sort of 10 times in a week at least.
Yeah.
Because you cook dal typically separately for lunch, separately for dinner, and you cook a different dal, and you cook different way of cooking a dal, because you can't keep having the same type of dal twice in a day. So 10 बार अगर जब दाल बनाते हैं तो हर बार हम variation डालते हैं. Sometimes you put tadka, sometimes you don't, sometimes you add onion.
Sometimes you add sabzi for the kids.
Yeah, sometimes you add sabzi for the kids, sometimes you add dal with chicken or mutton or whatever.
Yeah.
So there are 10 variations in a week alone. So we were trying to launch dal masala, saying that while she cooking dal, will she use a masala, open a pack of masala, you like a magic masala of Maggi. But imagine if you have that masala for dal. And by looking at consumers, talking to them, we knew that she's not going to use a masala, because if she uses a masala, she'll maybe use it once in a week, if at all. Because that's one variation out of the 10 variations she needs in a week. 9 times she's not going to use it.
Yeah.
But we still were pushing it. We tried our luck, it didn't work in the market, for example. So that's a spectacular failure, if you like.
Yeah.
But that's not a failure of insight. It's just the denial saying, no. I think we should be able to give a solution to simplify the dal making process, to make it easier for her, Didn't work because she's like, I know my dal. I know how I'm going to make it. I don't need masala. I mean, I add a masala if I want, but that's not going to be my everyday dal
Absolutely,
process.
absolutely. And one of my very interesting insights, it was my observation. I'm sure insights would have been of learned men like you who was working on it.
You make me sound really old.
But I think one observation which I had was that ketchups as a category doesn't sell in South, right? And the underlying observation or insight is that they take a lot of pride in the homemade chutneys that they
Yeah.
make, and they have a beautiful variety.
Yeah.
Yeah, so from the gochus of the world, the coconut chutneys, and just the beetroot peel chutneys of the world. That's not the case when you talk about North India,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's so beautiful to just observe the culture, the history behind why the consumers are doing what they are doing. I think is just spectacular.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's an interesting book called Whose Samosa Is It Anyway?
Okay.
Which talks about the history of samosa and origin of samosa, how it came from Latin America, and got Indianized, and why it's got accepted more in North India than South India.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are fascinating things to look at, and there are a lot of reasons of why that happens too.
So today, Manish, we are living in a phygital world.
Yeah.
A lot of our products are digital products. So many apps, gaming, even banking is digital, commerce is digital. How has this field evolved in terms of consumer understanding when it comes to a phygital or a digital product,
Right.
vis-a-vis doing a research about, let's say, a detergent packet?
Right. A lot has changed and a lot is changing. And I think some of it is we are still learning as insights professionals, saying what's the best way of using it. So historically, in market research, for last few decades, we've asked questions because there was no other option. But the best way is to observe, because people don't do what they say and they don't say what they do.
Yeah.
So asking questions has been sort of an indirect method, and we've had to have benchmarks and norms to saying, let's say, overclaim, what's the underclaim. Digital allows you to sort of get rid of all of that. You just observe the behavior and start connecting the dots.
Right.
And the processing power of analytics has also improved dramatically to be able to analyze those millions of observation data points.
Yeah.
And do that. So I think that's very different in digital. We try and minimize the questions that are asked, but do observations more.
Yeah.
Which can also be applied to other words. So, for example, another fascinating example I'll tell you. When I was on foods, we decided to, instead of asking questions of what did you cook yesterday, typically the interviews used to be, what did you cook yesterday for breakfast? How did you cook it? What ingredients? What brands? Then lunch, then breakfast, then snacks. So it's a long questionnaire. Instead, we put a camera in people's kitchens with the permission. So we put a camera on top of the gas stove, which is recording everything that's being cooked, and like for 2 weeks. And the digital technologies are capable of sifting through the videos and telling you that, tell me when she cooked chicken, what did she cook? And it'll cut those videos and tell you 10 different ways she cooked chicken in those 2 weeks.
Right.
So no questions asked. A lot more accurate data, a lot more reliable. With no questions asked. And you know exactly what the behavior is.
Wow.
So I think that's an advantage of the phygital world, where you can get more accurate, reliable, valid insights than the physical world.
Yeah. And I think, somewhere social listening also really helps.
Yeah.
One of the thoughts which is coming to my mind is, what is Nisha Madhulika on YouTube kind of giving recipe for?
Yeah.
That people are, watching it like so very, so very they're very, very interested in that. Right. So which are those recipes which get maximum views?
Yeah.
I was amazed to see that even a recipe of different kinds of chai gets lots and lots of views.
Yeah.
So I was like, who cannot make a chai? But then, there is a market for it. So while, you can intuitively say it's just chai, but there is a consumer who is wanting to watch that video and, understand and make a better tea.
Yeah.
Because it's so important. I drink it 4 times a day. I want my cup of chai to be perfect.
Absolutely.
So I think, yes, you're totally right. Digital gives you that advantage. So I think from insights as a profession, we are going to move to insights about you, because this show is about careers. This show is about, really inspiring the audience with the great journey that you've had. So, one thing which really stood out in your journey, Manish, was that you have spent 25 plus years in doing market research and consumer insights. It also comes with a great advantage and a position of strength,
right,
where you have committed yourself to this field. What kept you motivated and keep doing this throughout your life?
Well, one of the big reasons is that I have, out of those, 28 years or so, I've spent 20 of them at Unilever. So that's one big factor, of course. Um, but a couple of things. I think if you enjoy your work, I know it's a cliche, but if you enjoy your work, it's not a job anymore. It's absolutely true. And every job that I've done, I worked with a few agencies, research agencies, and one ad agency before I joined Unilever. But every job that I did, I really enjoyed myself. I thoroughly enjoyed. And if I didn't enjoy, I left. Or a change. I asked for change of projects, or change of clients, etc. So I've really enjoyed myself. That's one big factor. And I've consciously chose research after my B school because after engineering, I didn't like engineering at all. I didn't like the job, and I was really, really bored. And when I went to B school, I didn't want to get bored after my job. So I had to really think about what do I like, and I had to keep certain things aside, saying, keep the salaries aside, just think about what you really like. So I had to spend 2, 3 days thinking about it, and I like, okay, research, I'm liking it, so why not? If it's unglamorous job, that's okay. I like it, I'll go after it. And I went after it. I'm glad I made that decision because I've stuck to it and I've enjoyed every moment.
Yeah.
So that's one big part. The other part is that Unilever, of course, allows you to change your role every 2, 3 years. So you work on different categories, you work on different brands, and I was geographically mobile. My wife was thankfully supportive, so therefore that allowed me to go to different countries, and that kept me engaged, that kept me busy. But I think one of the other biggest factors is that this is the job that gives me ability to talk to different people
Yeah.
across the world about different categories, about food, about beauty, about personal care. These are fascinating topics, and you can have endless conversations with consumers. And I'm like, which other job will allow you to do that?
Yeah.
So, what is there to get bored in? So, from when I'm in Germany, for instance, I went to Germany and did Consumer Connect on how they cook dinner for their kids. To going for Consumer Connects in a market like India or China or Indonesia or Brazil, Argentina, going and meeting people, see how they're living their lives, see what their dreams are about, and you realize that the brands are like tiny in their minds and they're nothing. We spend so much time thinking about our advertising and brands. Consumers obviously don't think about the brands.
Yeah.
That's quite a humbling experience. So going and seeing how they're living their lives, what their aspirations, what their desires, what their anxieties are, and what's the tiny little role that my brand can play,
Yeah.
to give her a little bit of happiness or to give her a little bit of joy in life or to let her meet her dreams or make her feel confident, get better nutrition for kids, etc., gives you immense satisfaction. And the ability to be able to get that insight and bring it to the table is what drives me.
Wow, that's so interesting and so inspiring. So now, Manish, you've turned to be an author, and I have read your book, guys. This is the book, and it's a masterclass if you want to know about insights, if you want to know about FMCG world. Really, really nice. I want to know what triggered you to kind of write a book.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that you think it's a good book. I wasn't sure when I was writing it that anybody's going to read it. It has become one of the best sellers on Amazon. Um, when I started writing, is one, I felt that I needed to have something to start with for myself, a diary of sort, to remember the things that I've done, to sort of have a collected collection somewhere saying these are the ways in which you get insights. Because the variation of things that I had done by the time I left it was so much that I was beginning to worry, saying, okay, I would forget that how we used to do this. This kind of a thing is very interesting. I must take a note of it somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm a quite methodical person in that sense. So all the training programs I've attended ever in my life across agencies, I still have notes of those. My own written notes. I have notes of my B school.
Were you the kid whose notes got xeroxed by your fellow classmates to study for the exams?
Exactly. In B school, yes, not in engineering though. Engineering, I didn't pay too much attention to studies. So I have all the notes of my trainings. I have all the presentations of my training. So I was like, I must have a catalog of sort of something of what I've done. So I will start writing it down. If nobody else reads it, at least I will have a diary for myself, which I can refer to. And I also intended to work as a consultant after I left Unilever. So it will be a good reference to sort of say that, yeah, I can refer to that. So I started writing for that purpose. And when I started writing, I spoke to Sanjeev, who was the CEO at that time of HUL. And he was highly encouraging. He said, that's a great idea. It'll be great learning for everybody else. And, it's a wisdom that you're doing good because you're imparting your wisdom for other people to learn from. So when he encouraged, I thought, oh, okay, maybe it's a good idea. I will write it. And then he's supportive. So it looks like there might be audience for it. Wow. So I wrote it. and it took quite some time to write it because there are examples and case studies and data. And then Unilever had to sort of, they were kind enough to sort of agree to let me publish it. All of that took a bit of time, a lot of time. So it took me 4 years from starting to the end for it to come out. But that was the motivation, saying I want to be to be able to tell my story is one. Second thing, actually, I must, thanks to Sitapati, I have thanked him. But when he wrote this book, CEO Factory, I read it. I felt that there are lots of books in marketing which tell the marketing story. How did we make this brand? What went behind the brand? The behind the scenes story. So very interesting to read. Very good to read, of course. But I felt there is nobody telling the story of insights.
Yeah.
The backbone of marketing is insights.
Absolutely.
And of course, the brand managers are insightful. They're using the insights, and they are the ones who create writing an advertising brief or working with R&D to create a product, etc. But insight is working with them like the other side of the same coin.
Yeah, yeah.
So why is nobody telling insight story? Why is insights reduced to the boring field of market research? Get that qualitative thing done, get that quantitative product testing done.
Right.
It's not boring at all. That's not my experience. It's not boring at all. So why is nobody telling the interesting story of insight?
Yeah.
So that was the other motivation, saying somebody must see our side of the world as well, and sort of be excited by that. And I do a lot of talks at B schools. I teach at a few B schools, etc. And my objective there always is to tell people, look, this is a great career option. Why are you not even considering it? So unfortunately, the starting salary in research agency is not as good as the starting salary in marketing. So that demotivates a lot of people. But every year I convert at least 4 or 5 students across these 2-3 campuses and say, you must join research because it's an exciting career.
Yeah.
Money will come along. If you do well, money will come along. That's not a problem at all.
Yes. Passion is or execution है पैसा आ जाएगा.
बिल्कुल पैसा आ जाएगा.
Right.
If you show the right value, then if you show the value you're bringing to the table, organizations will pay for it.
Right.
So that was the other motivation, saying tell my story behind the scenes of insights, motivate other people, let people see that it's a very, very good world.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting and exciting world as well, and not just and this is really the gore behind the glamour of marketing world.
Absolutely.
And this is where the real gore is. So why not show people that?
Yeah. One very interesting thing that you talked about was that many people look at market research as अच्छा quantitative study कर दो, qualitative study कर दो, अच्छा ये बता दो, अच्छा consumer क्या कर रहा है, अच्छा मुझे एक note बना के दे दो, PPT दे दो, अच्छा मेरा annual planner उसमें input कर देंगे. So somewhere, I think in your book also you mentioned that there is, sometimes tendency in organizations to make market research as an order-taking function.
Right,
yeah, and it is very important that market research kind of has a seat at the decision-making table.
Yeah.
Early in your career, Manish, did you face that issue? And, how did you navigate this from, let's say, some function which was just doing as what it was being told to do, to someone who really had a voice and really kind of contributed to the decision and the business?
Yeah. So it's a great question. And I think one fundamental principle that I learned pretty early on, I think I had good mentors and bosses in Unilever and before that, is that just because you have a seat at the table doesn't mean that people are going to listen to you.
Yeah.
So respect is something that you have to earn yourself. So you have the seat at the table doesn't mean people are going to respect you because you're the head of something or you're responsible for something. Respect has to be earned. And the moment you start earning respect, people will listen to you even if you don't have seat at the table.
Wow.
Then people will call you and give you a seat at the table. So, and the respect you earn by bringing genuine value to the table. So therefore one must be very clear about what's the value that you're bringing to the table. Whereas thinking that seat at the table is because of the hierarchy. I must grow in the hierarchy so that I get seat at the table and then I will start influencing things. I think that's a wrong way of looking at things. Hierarchy has got nothing to do with that. You have to earn your respect. You have to bring the value to the table. And then even if you're a junior in the organization, even if you don't have seat at the table, people will listen to you. I think that's one big insight, if you like, I had early on. But it's not very easy to implement that, obviously. I am an introverted sort of a person. So if I'm in a meeting, I don't really say something unless I have something to say. So often in the beginning, particularly Unilever kind of an organization, people used to think that, okay, I don't have a point of view. I'm not saying anything. But I'm new. I'm not generally going to say for the sake of class participation and say, hey.
Right.
I would rather, so I take my time to understand things, learn things, and then I started expressing point of view. So you need to give yourself that time. If you're of that nature,
Yeah.
If you're of that nature, then you need to give yourself that time to sort of to be able to have a thought and put the value on the table. If you're the kind of a person who can think very, easily on the feet and by all means, yes.
Yeah.
So I therefore, think that being clear on the value that you bring to the table, demonstrating that value, bringing it continuously to your business partners is a must, and therefore they'll treat you like an equal. Doesn't
Right.
matter where you're at the hierarchy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
yeah.
think that's a crucial thing to get a seat on the table. so to
Very
speak.
interesting. I think one very tangential topic which you touched upon is that many professionals feel that I'm an introvert
Yeah,
and hence I may not be respected.
yeah,
Hence, people might take me very lightly. But clearly, that's not the case because in being introvert never means that you do not have a point of view.
Yeah.
It's just your expression is different.
right.
You might be far more comfortable writing a note, a very detailed note, and
Yeah.
then putting a point of view across.
Yeah,
And nowhere, I think, leadership or great organization judge you for being an introvert or an
No.
extrovert. It's just a personal style.
that's right.
And it's absolutely okay to have your personal style as long as you said, you're bringing a definite value to
Yeah.
what you are saying in whichever manner and
Yeah.
whenever you are saying it.
Yeah, that has to be demonstrated.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
the organization has to be inclusive to say that it doesn't matter what your demeanor is. I may be an extrovertish, very go sort of a person, always thinking on my feet and always demanding things. But if I'm working with somebody who's more introvertish and wants to have a bit of a pause and think and come back, I must respect that. I must give them space.
Yeah.
Equally, the introvert person must realize that what are the other person expecting from me, extrovertish, but they're expecting me to behave in a certain way.
Yeah.
So I must deliver faster, perhaps. I must do more homework before the meeting or whatever I need to do
Yeah.
to be able to express myself. So that inclusivity is important to let
Yeah.
people of different nature flourish.
Absolutely.
But your own understanding of who you are and what drives you, what motivates you, is very, very critical.
yeah.
Therefore,
yeah.
for you to be able to stand your ground.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, you know, just going one step further on this, has it ever happened, Manish, with you that, you went to a brand and you were very convinced of an insight which you went to the brand with, and somewhere, you are trying to convince the brand, but you were just not able to convince the brand who has to take a decision, let's say for a product launch, for an advertisement idea, for maybe just a consumer insight which could have led to some business growth, etc. And the brand manager is very clear, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Right? How did you navigate that difficult situation?
Well, yeah, lots and lots and lots of those difficult situations, as you would imagine, because people are obviously paid to have a point of view. And therefore, people's point of views are not always in the same direction. And I think the biggest conflicts of like these kinds have happened in the space of communication and advertising.
Yeah.
Where you say, this is the insight we put on the table, and the script or the ad is not talking about that at all. So why have you moved away from that insight that we put on the table? Why is the script not doing justice to that? So usually I'm generalizing and stereotyping here, but the creative directors from advertising agencies hate insights professionals because they're like, you are not valuing my art. This is a piece of art, and this is passion and all of that. So how can you sort of say things like that? Or particularly if you've done ad testing and it hasn't done well in testing, and you're putting in saying no, you shouldn't go ahead with it, then it's a very difficult conversation because they have also put their heart and soul into it, which is the creative guys and the marketing guys. So those are difficult conversations. But a couple of things that is that you have to keep your calm and you have to sort of stay focused, saying, what am I saying? Why am I saying that?
Yeah.
So in 28 years, for instance, at workplace, places that I worked at, nobody has ever seen me angry in office.
Wow.
So my wife has seen me angry a lot of times. So you've got to figure out as to where are you going to express your emotion and how. And, are you going to be able to be calm and objective or not? That's one. Second thing is that, the mantra that we play at Unilever, and I certainly play with it, saying everybody has to bring data at the table. In God, we may trust, but everybody else has to bring data.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking that this insight is not useful for your communication, you tell me why. You show me a piece of script, we test it, see whether it's working or not.
Right.
And I've tested the ad, for instance, and it's not doing well in the pre-testing, so therefore I think it's not work. And I'm telling you the reasons why it will not work. So if you want to take a risk, by all means take a risk. Otherwise, you bring the data. So that you can then go to the stakeholders and say, look, their point of view is this, mine is this, this is what the data is showing, let the stakeholders decide.
Yeah.
But yeah, keeping your objectivity at that point in time and saying, why am I saying what am I saying? What's the data that supports that? I think is very, very important and critical.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a beautiful thing that you said, and I would really want to know how you do it, that you've not expressed anger at workplace. How is it even possible? But very interestingly, for example, I feel sometimes you have to distinguish the person from the problem from the POV.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone's trying to do good. Everyone's intent is to do the right thing. Their ways might be different. As you rightly mentioned, that we need to be objective about things. But someone might feel that no, my gut and my intuition, because of my
Yeah.
experience, is far more important than probably data even. But I want to understand how have you never gotten angry at workplace?
I mean, I've got angry. Just I don't express it, in a meeting or in front of people necessarily. Because I
Yeah.
think it's just perhaps a little bit unprofessional. It doesn't mean I don't have emotions. Of course, I do have emotions. But my workplace personality is usually a lot more methodical, measured, and governed by certain principles. Saying I'm going to do this, I'm not going to do this. This is my job. Equally, therefore, I'm happy to push back and have pushbacks. And this is not my job. I'm not going to do it,
Right.
etc. Because I don't think so. If you have that professional demeanor saying, I know what my job is, I know what value I'm bringing, what is my capability, what I can't do, etc., then you're a lot more measured and methodical. Then you don't let emotions cloud your judgment. Then you don't let emotions come in the way to say, whether it's the right decision or wrong decision.
Yeah.
And therefore, getting angry at workplace, getting angry at your colleagues, etc., is a little pointless because everybody's emotions are running high in situations at workplace. Everybody's at a high pressure.
Yeah.
So, in fact, therefore, in a lot of times, sometimes I was given roles, in a category or in a team where my job was a troubleshooter to set things or to set the normal process. Or I was called in the meetings to play like the middle person, saying two parties are not agreeing. Can you be the middleman and sort of make sure that they agree, objectively agree?
Yeah.
So organization has used that capability of mine, has recognized it and used that capability of mine as well.
Yeah.
To say that, okay, you are able to hold your thing together, so why don't you come into this meeting and sort it out?
Yeah, I think that's a great learning for our viewers, because I think emotions run very high in the youth of today.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important to just hold yourself together when you're having a professional conversation and work towards the greater good, work towards the
Yeah.
business outcomes, and it's absolutely possible.
Yeah.
In your book, you have talked about technology really transforming, your space and in general our world. And we all talk about AI. I think probably AI can give you good tenets of market research output. But my question to you is that can it give an insight?
Obviously, being an human insights professional, I would say no. But insight comes from connecting the dots, right? You are looking at certain thing and saying, why are they saying this way? What does it mean? And what's the actual context? You look at lots and lots of different things, and you don't know where that inspiration is going to come from and
Yeah.
which dot suddenly is going to shine and make other dots look a lot more meaningful, for instance. So that human ingenuity is human ingenuity. What AI will do is that it'll give you, instead of you looking at 10 dots to connect, it'll give you 1 million dots to connect.
Yeah.
And it'll also connect it for you and say that connection of these dots perhaps means this, connection of these dots perhaps means that. But then you have to make sense of it, because ultimately those are just machines, algorithms that are sitting behind behind that. So that's not something that machines can do as effectively, I would like to believe. Because the context is something we understand and emotions is something that we understand better. But the ability to get to a better insight is certainly better if you're using technology. The better processing power, the better speeds, etc., is something that you can do. I'll give you an example which is quite interesting, because now in advertising, etc., the face reading is quite common. So you read through the camera, you read the facial expression of a respondent while they're watching the ad, and you can make out, are they happy, are they enjoying it, not enjoying it, etc. And therefore, technically, it's a machine that's decoding, saying people liked it or didn't like it.
Yeah.
Even if you're asking the question about enjoyment, machine is decoding, saying whether the respondent really enjoyed or not enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Now, is the machine there really giving an insight? The machine is calibrating, saying when Manish does this, he's actually smiling.
Yeah.
And because he did this while watching the ad, that means he smiled. Ergo, he liked the ad, enjoyed the ad. Now, Manish might be doing this at several different occasions as well.
Yeah.
The machine doesn't know that. But as a human, I can read micro expressions. Intuitively, we read each other's micro expressions. much better. And
Mhm.
unless you train the machine will interpret it completely wrong.
Mhm.
So they are getting better for sure. But I think insight, which is that aha moment saying, oh, now I know why it happens that way. You start thinking of 20 different things, of
Yeah.
implications of that particular insight. Saying, now I know why, these people, when they come to office, they behave this way. The first thing they do this.
Yeah.
Now I understand why they do that.
Yeah.
So that I don't think the machines can do as yet till
Yeah.
they become humans.
Yeah. No, I think you talked about aha moments. I cannot tell you how many aha moments we had in terms of, I had in terms of listening to you and, great insights and great stories. That makes me come towards the end of our episode, and we have a rapid fire round for you.
Right.
So please get up. So while we call it a rapid fire round, but we would also want to know the why behind it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Let's get right into it. What is your favorite book, Manish?
Right now on top of my list is Desperately Seeking Shahrukh by Shanya Bhattacharya. If you want to understand the real status of women in India, from agarbatti makers, living in slums in India, to the posh colonies of South Delhi, that's the book. It's brilliant, it's eye-opening, and it's fascinating.
Sure. That's going to be my next read. One must-watch movie or show which you really want to recommend?
I like movies that are based on human insight. So I think movies like Pursuit of Happiness, for example, which talks about
beautiful
different emotions and how do you sort of deal with them, and a beautiful father-child, father-son relationship. So that's top of my mind on being one of the most insightful movies.
Yeah, absolutely. No two ways about it. We are in a digital world. Your must follow influencer.
I'm not too much into influencers, so I'm not sure I have somebody who's favorite, but I do read a lot of blogs and a lot of podcasts. So
yeah.
Not one that comes to mind.
Sure. I hope that you kind of get a few favorites. So one non-negotiable mantra which you've lived by in your career, in your 25 plus years career.
Right. I think that one of the biggest drivers for me is that I don't think anybody hands you a platter in life saying, here is what you should do with life, or here is what your job, just do it well, or here is your whatever money or inheritance or nothing. You don't get anything handed over to you in a platter. Everything you have to earn. So if you put hard work, you earn well. If you don't put hard work, you don't earn well. It's simple as that. Nobody gets things handed to them in a platter in life. We think there are some people who are lucky. They've got money, they've got good job, they've got connections, or whatever it may be. They've got good looks, or so on. They don't have it easy. That looks easy from outside, but you don't get handed a platter in life. You have to earn it.
Wow, absolutely. And one wish that you have for our channel, Turn the Page, Manish?
Well, I wish that I can name your channel as one of the favorite influencers I follow.
Wow.
In the near future.
Thank you. That's a great wish to have. And cheers to that.
Cheers.
And what an inspirational journey. What an insightful conversation we had today. It is definitely one of my favorite conversations. So keep tuning in for many such conversations where we see the journeys of very great leaders in the industry. And don't forget to turn the page.